come into a class with some experience and you say, oh, well, yeah, that's how it looks in the book, but I've seen it this way, and you kind of get shot down.
What's up, everybody? Awesome episode today. Today I am talking with Ben and Greg from the Real Talk School of Nursing podcast. If you guys haven't listened to this podcast yet, it is a lot of fun. It's Real Talk School of Nursing. And Ben and Greg, are EMTs who then went to nursing school, and they share their stories. They talk very openly, very frankly about their journey in nursing. So once you've listened to this episode, head over to iTunes or Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you're at, and just search Real Talk School of Nursing, and make sure you subscribe. These guys are a lot of fun. They're very awesome. You can also find them up on Twitter, Facebook, anywhere on social media at Real Talk School of Nursing or Real Talk Nursing. So be sure to check these guys out. It's Ben and Greg with Real Talk Nursing. And lastly, if you haven't had a chance to try out the NRSNG Academy, you can try it out for just $1 for a 3-day trial. It includes all of our courses, OB, Peds, med-surg, labs, cardiac, EKG, pharm, just so many things. It also includes tools. It includes our question bank. It includes flashcards. It includes image database. There's so much there. If you go to nrsng.com/academy, nrsng.com/academy, you can get started for a 3-day trial for just $1. All right, guys, enjoy the show.
I'm Ben, and this is Greg. We are a podcast called the Real Talk School of Nursing. I guess we just started this like February,
Yeah, early this year.
Almost a year ago.
Yeah, we're getting up there. We always have some harebrained schemes, and this one we listen to podcasts a lot. So we're like, well, why don't we start our own? So we're hoping to grow with it because I'm still a nursing student. Ben is on his way out. He just graduated.
Yep.
But the show's just going to grow with us, hopefully, and we're just going to continue to record. But yeah, we just do a lot of complaining usually on the show.
It's actually why I liked your show.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, that's kind of, we talked about this before we started recording and stuff, but I have some definite strong sentiments about nursing school and the way it's done and stuff. So I appreciate, it's obvious that you guys have, a lot of experience in nursing and stuff too, or in healthcare, I should say, and it's frustrating to go through that experience and see what you should be taught, versus what you are being taught and stuff. So,
yeah, I'm happy we finally got the chance to talk to you, because the only thing we really knew of you was, just looking at the iTunes, top podcast list and your face being all over there.
Yeah, we got like 3 million podcasts. So.
I know. I'm trying to unseat the throne there.
You have an empire.
It's a podcast empire. Yeah,
How did that all start?
So yeah, that's a good question. So if you go back and listen to the first podcast, I think I recorded into my phone, and I was just kind of ranting on something, And I was like, let's just try this, and I put it up there, and people started listening. I was like, okay, there's people that want to hear this stuff. So started going, and then the NRSNG podcast kind of started out growing what I was talking about, because I started focusing on meds for a little bit. I was like, well, let's do a pharmacology focused one. And then I started talking a lot about lab values. And so I kind of just started building a different podcast for each thing. And I think it really helped because, podcasts can get overwhelmed if you start talking about just whatever, and then this NRSNG one has kind of become more kind of the motivational one and the occasional A&P and stuff type episodes on here. But yeah, I think, there's a lot of people out there that struggle, like you guys did and like I did with nursing school. And I think the intimacy of podcasting really helps because, you can listen when you're jogging. You can listen when you're, that's what I used to do. I used to listen when I was driving to work, and you felt like the person. Exactly. And then, yeah. And so I just love the intimacy of it. I think it's more than YouTube, where it's public comments and this just feels like you're just having a conversation, I guess.
Yeah. And that's why, we kind of saw some of yours, with the pharmacology ones and the lab value ones, and sort of realized that you were kind of the, yours were 5-6 minutes, quick and dirty. You want to talk about this med, talk about this lab value, and that's that. I know that if we did that same thing, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't have the listenership, you know what I mean? Because
it's out there already. There's a couple different.
Yeah, you're out there, and you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. We almost wanted to be like the just like the casual, the leisure talk show almost. We like doing interviews. I think that's one of our favorite things about the show is talking to people. We've had a couple pretty interesting people on. We had a gentleman who he's starting his own company, Nurse Search, kind of putting like private duty nurses in with the right people. We talked to the creator and the CEO of the Squatty Potty, which was a
I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. Look back on there. It's fun. We had him on for an interview, and he was just like a really cool dude. And we've actually even told our patients like that come into the ER, oh hey, you're having some constipation, try this out. And,
try out the Squatty Potty.
Yeah, exactly. We should have maybe like parlayed like a coupon code or something.
Yeah, they should be paying us.
Yeah, that's
Real
right.
Talk Nursing, 15% off. But
that's hilarious.
Yeah, so that's what we kind of wanted to do, and then we also wanted to do a show that could grow with our careers as well too. So it's going to change a little bit, but it's still the same type of same subject matter.
No, for sure. And there's endless, there's endless stuff to talk about. That's like you look on Instagram or Facebook, and there's so many nurses out there talking about nursing, but I mean, there's just so much to talk about with it, and there's so many spins to take, like what you guys are doing. The two male nurses just chatting about the career, there's a niche for that in nursing, and it's awesome.
It's been fun. I mean, our ER, well, you probably can attest to this too. Like in the critical care areas, you've got probably more male nurses there than anywhere else in the nursing profession in terms of nursing areas. So we have some pretty great role models, I think, in the ER in terms of, male nurses, which I know I'm going to definitely model some of my actions after them. But we work with such a great group of people just in general that I think we're super lucky to work there. And then he's super lucky to get a job there. And then hopefully coming up here in a few months, I'll get a job there too, because that's where I want to grow, at least in the beginning.
I mean, I have my theories on it, but why do you guys think it's more males in ER, ICU than anywhere else?
This is just what I think, but I dislike when people say, when they ask, where I work, and I say I'm in the ER, and they say, you must be an adrenaline junkie. I think we talked about this before, but it's not that. I just think a lot of the other. I gotta be delicate how I say.
No, say it like you will. Yeah.
Yeah, we're never delicate.
That's true. We are never delicate, and that's
the point.
I'll talk about this obviously later too, but floor nursing. I just knew floor nursing wasn't for me. It's not the kind of nursing I want to do. There is more excitement in the ER. And I'm the kind of person that I guess I need a lot of stimulation. I don't know.
Do you have ADD?
I think I might.
Yeah, I think you do too.
Maybe we all do.
I can't sit still right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what the draw is. I don't know if there's one factor of the draw. But I think it may come from, I think people do have that adrenaline thing to it. There's a lot going on, and I also think it's the independence. I think a lot of men enjoy being very independent and not having to rely on many things. So you can do a lot in the ER or the ICU, and you can almost make some of the actual decisions, but you can think like a physician and then kindly suggest it to your attending as to what you think is the right next steps, maybe in a patient's care.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I think that's why it fits me too. Yeah, I mean, I like that too, because I work nights and ICU, and in the neuro ICU where none of the hospitalists ever wanted to go. They just hated it. So I loved it. Like there could be, if things were going smooth, like I wouldn't even see a physician, and I kind of like that. Like I could just kind of run the ship and take care of everything. And if things went down, I knew they were there. But otherwise, it was just kind of us, a few nurses kind of running the show,
Yeah, exactly. I like the doctors nearby. It's not as a crutch. I don't see it as a crutch. I don't think any of our nurses see it as a crutch. It's just really nice to be able to interface with them, because sometimes you just get some random, if you're in a big teaching hospital, some random resident that, you'll see sparingly because they're worried about something else. But, you get to really see your ER attendings and your ICU attendings. You get to know them really well.
With our NRSNG team is Susan. She works in a big university emergency room, And like having her talk with us who are like ICU nurses or floor nurses, like it's a different ball game. Like once you get in the elevators, leaving the ER, like everything changes in the rest of the hospital. Because she's like, you guys can't do that? Like, that's crazy. And I'm like, I mean, I thought I had a lot of independence, but man, it's nothing like what you get in the ER.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't even know how, like, it's just funny seeing people come to our ER and they don't even know like where room 25 is. It's like, to us, that's just like simple. Like, it's right there. But they get lost all the time. Yeah,
I like had my path. I would stay going to the ER to get stuff because if otherwise I'd be totally. I have no clue what's going on down there. And I think they see us. It's like, I mean, I think they were mostly nice to us, but I think they definitely saw us as like outsiders. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah. We tag you immediately as an outsider.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Oh, anytime. Set you apart though, so we know you don't get lost. We're like, oh, there's an ICU nurse. They're lost. But we still rely a lot. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we rely on from the ICU. Like there's some silly things like the Cool Guard catheter, post arrest, pop in one of those. An ICU nurse has to come down and set that up.
Right.
So it's kind of strange, like where we still rely on the ICU for some, obviously the patient's going to go there.
Right. But getting things set up initially and.
Yeah. I always thought that I think it'd be a great idea to have them come down to the ER if they're going to take a patient. And obviously, like we would help still transport the patient, but a bedside report sometimes in the ER, I think would be very helpful.
Dude, that's a revolutionary idea, and it's so simple.
Yeah, exactly. I think most in healthcare, especially nursing, the simplest ideas can actually change the most, and they could be the most beneficial.
How come I've never seen that done anywhere before?
Yeah, I don't know. It's something that I throw around. I have one of my best friends. He's a cardiac ICU nurse. He actually just stopped. He's going to be going to CRNA school here in January, but we have these conversations all the time, and we haven't had him on the show yet, and I always wanted to have him on. It's just we haven't had him on, but that's one of the ones that we tossed around a lot was, he takes a lot of patients from the OR, not the ER.
Right.
And he even said like he would love to go down there sometimes and take a report at the bedside, see if he notices anything that he has a question on, because once you start transporting a patient,
anything can happen.
All hell breaks loose.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you move them, like you turn an ARDS patient a little bit, and So yeah, I mean, I've never seen that done, and I mean, we've talked about it a lot on our show and on our blog and stuff. That like there's this crazy like animosity between like ED and ICU nurses when it comes to report, because you guys give report differently than we give, and it fits what you do in your job. Like you tell us what matters to you, but it's not what we're looking for, So the easy fix for that is like take the elevator down 2 floors, look at the patient, and then transfer it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just like it's just the change of scenery. Like if we come down, like we come up to an ICU room and it is, all set up correctly the way that the ICU nurse likes it. Everything's there. And I feel like walking into those rooms, you touch one thing.
What are you doing?
Yes, exactly. So I don't know. Maybe it's just the scenery change. Rick, I'm pretty sure. Like, do the ER nurses in your hospital, they come up with the patient?
Yeah, like they'll come up with one tech, drop them off, and like here you go, and it's like. And then you start seeing, the ICU nurses get in their little corner, the ED nurses get in their little corner, and it's like, this little like West Side Story or something,
Exactly. Somebody's gonna start snapping.
Yeah, exactly. Like pretty soon fingers are snapping and people are tap dancing. That's.
Yep. Yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe it'd be such a radical change of scenery that could help. But I also think that people just get pigeonholed into what they're doing. And there needs to be such a huge bridge between the ICU and the ER.
There really does.
That needs to be created. And there's some new units out there. I don't know if you've ever seen, like the University of Michigan has a. Yeah. Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah. They have a whole new unit that's like a emergency critical care unit that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Patients that still need, they still need to go to MRI. They still need a bunch of central lines or an ART line. They're like sort of resuscitated, but they're not quite there yet to go to an ICU bed to be monitored. And they actually even created a brand new residency and fellowship program too that kind of bridges the gap. It's like an EM and critical care medicine fellowship.
Oh, that's awesome. Because I mean,
down to the ER.
Yeah, because you guys start the Neo or the Levifed or whatever, and then it's like, I mean, you're not used to managing it for 6 hours. So bring the nurse down, because the MRI machine, the MRI machine might be busy for the next 2 hours. And it's like, having somebody there that's kind of used to, I mean, that'd be an awesome field to work in, because you get that little bit of ED, but you still get that kind of longer term management. But it's, you're right, it's a totally different ballgame. It's not bringing in that acute stroke and dropping them off in ICU. It's like, we got to take care of them for 4 more hours or whatever.
Yeah, well, even with that, you've got all those checks. So you dump a bunch of TPA in them, and you've got all those checks you need to do.
There's no ED nurse that can have that kind of time.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a bridge the gap, and I think it looks like, reading a bunch of articles on it, it looks like that's going to be maybe not the trend, but more places going towards that trend, especially at those large, inner city hospitals that have the volume and that receive a ton of patients as well too, whether it be EMS brand new patients or, flown in from an outside facility. Because sometimes those patients are an absolute disaster as well too when they land in the ICU. Yeah. Because they came from a rural ED, and then boom, they're coming right to an ICU bed. So
those are that's I love that idea, man. I think that'd be incredible. And
I heard it here, folks.
Yeah,
here first.
Here first. So with because from what I've seen, I mean, we'll talk a little more about this, I guess, but from what I've seen, like EMTs and ED nurses have a really great relationship. I mean, is that
for the most part? Yeah, they're.
I mean, you get to know your fire department and your buddy.
You do.
Yeah,
you really do. I mean, those people will become more than just, they're definitely coworkers, even though you don't work in the same department. You just see them so much that they're coworkers. And then you also, we hang out with a lot of the medics and stuff too, like after work. And, our jobs are very similar. They parallel for a lot of the time. And then they, ours go off in a different direction than theirs do. But it's nice to have that good working professional relationship, and even like the friend relationship too, because you kind of then when somebody comes in with a patient, you can kind of just look at them, how they're walking or acting, and okay, this is a real shortness of breath, not just it got really cold out, and bronchitis stacking up. So you can kind of see that before you even assess the patient.
That's awesome. So you guys both did the EMT thing before nursing school.
Yeah.
Yeah. For a short time, we pretty much realized the money and the fun is all in the hospital and nursing. So
they don't get paid enough. It's sad, but they don't get paid enough.
No, not enough. Would you guys recommend that to people like investigating healthcare, or, I mean, because EMT takes like 18 months or something too, doesn't it?
Mine was pretty quick.
I did an accelerated program.
Yeah.
Mine was 3 months in the summer.
Oh, wow.
But it was pretty extensive.
So I mean, a lot of your EMT stuff is on the job training then.
Yeah. Well, paramedics, theirs is more like 18 months, maybe even longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have there's definitely a much longer program. But I definitely suggest it, because I think the skills that you learn are, like, especially if you plan on going into nursing, because it's all about the assessment, and you're doing an assessment, whether it be at the motor vehicle side or at the patient's couch side or at the, nursing home bedside, that those assessment techniques, if you can just, hone those and you can adapt those and just see a ton of patients, so you kind of know what the norms are. And then if you bring that to nursing school, you're going to be above and beyond all of your peers, because you've got that normal sound or that normal look, that normal feel and touch before you even, touch your first patient as a, quote unquote student nurse. And I think there's some valuable lessons to be learned out in the field. But it's very different. It makes it a little difficult though sometimes in school, because you have your way of doing things and it's going to change.
Right. Well, I mean, because you guys are kind of the Lone Rangers. I mean, because I hadn't really thought about that like you're in people's homes, like doing your initial assessment or your focused assessment, and that's cool. I mean, you really see the part of healthcare that no one else gets to see, is that home environment and everything of that COPD patient or heart failure patient,
Yeah. I mean, like, speaking of like heart failure, I mean, you're literally seeing what that patient's eating. Yeah. So you can kind of know, like, hey, okay, this is probably, CHF exacerbation, because the Christmas ham over there is half eaten and it's, it's only December 19th. So the living conditions, and I think a lot of our medics and EMTs are pretty good at conveying that social side to us at the bedside, or at least the nurses at the bedside. Mm-hmm. I say us because we're in the rooms pretty much right when they roll into. But they can convey that social side of it, and you kind of can get a little little bit extra of the history, just by the condition of the house, or, you know, so-and-so checks in on the patient, but it turns out they haven't been there for months.
Right.
So
right.
it's kind of depressing sometimes, but you get a lot of backstory information that you wouldn't get otherwise. And that may be lost in the report that a nurse would give to the floor.
Oh yeah. I mean, and then you imagine the patient stays there for 2 or 3 weeks, and by the end of it, like no one even, it's not even the same person report to report, you know, it's a totally different patient and different background and it's like the telephone game, you know?
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, what questions do you guys have for me? I've kind of been drilling you about EMT stuff.
No, yeah.
That's cool. We love talking.
I love EMTs, man. I really do.
We had some things we wanted to ask you regarding your podcast, actually. As you are what we consider the innovator of nursing podcasts, do you think that the self-produced content is the best way to go for education for nurses or entertainment? I feel that these podcasts are taking the places of like blogs now, like because you can listen to them anywhere.
Yeah.
You don't have to sit down on your computer and read a blog.
Yeah. I mean, I do. And because we've been doing this for about 2 years or so now. And what I've seen, you know, is you can get that person who's still at the bedside working with patients, seeing the innovations, seeing the real things going on. And then they're able to come and tell you those stories, and you're able to like listen to the story and be like, you know, like as a student, put yourself in that situation. Like, what would I do? You know, what was I just taught? You know, versus just the kind of dry, formal classroom where it's just, you know, 30 minutes of covering every cardiac disorder, you know, and then you can come back and listen to 10 different podcasts on, you know, angina, CHF, you know, all kinds of different things that are focused and patient specific that you can't get that in a classroom, you know? And so I like we were talking about the intimacy of it, like having these experiences against nurses just tell you stories, and it feels like you're there and walking you through the scenario. Like I wish that I had this when I was going through school, you know, like somebody just that felt like a mentor that was telling me what they would do and then telling me their struggles. Because I think even like with, like I love podcasting because it can, like you don't have to see my face, you know, you don't have to see my writing style. I can just tell stories, and, you know, you can be a little bit more raw and a little bit more honest. And I think sometimes people like to hide their vulnerabilities and their fears and stuff. And I think everyone would be surprised if you found out how scared every other nursing student is, you know, but when you hear somebody who's made it through, you know, like you guys or like myself telling you like, man, it sucked for me too. And it was hard for me too. I think it gives that little bit of courage. Like, all right, it was hard for Ben and Greg and it was hard for John, but they made it. So I can do it too, you know, and you can't get that from a teacher. Like they can't tell you it sucks, you know?
Yeah. They can't.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, I've kind of come to see this. I had a pharmacology course. They split it into 2 and they're going to change it again because it just, whatever the way they set it up just hasn't been working. And you know, you get this incredibly intelligent, very great, just incredible nurse that's a DNP, but they had their focus in genetics. They work in like a neonatal ICU. Like they're a huge, huge resource if you want to talk to them about genetics and neonatal ICUs.
Sure.
I feel like sometimes the nursing instructors are too far removed, like we're talking about, you know, at the bedside, and they don't understand the basics that need to be taught before they can go on to these really cool high level, you know, thinking that they learned whenever they went to get their master's and then they went to go and get their DNP. And it's not saying that I want, you know, brand new nurses teaching nursing classes, but
guest lectures or or
like
podcasts.
Exactly. So I think that gap is filled by, you know, podcasting, and is filled by, even, you know, sometimes you follow people on you follow people on Twitter. Like we follow a ton on Twitter, and just reading their little blips and blurbs, you can learn a lot from just that.
Or YouTube. You know, there's other YouTube nursing celebrities like Michael Linares.
Yeah.
You know him? And Power RN.
Yeah.
Or,
I mean, it's just, and I think you miss that, and you can't, it's hard to really have that like real personal relationship with a professor too. Cause like their ultimate job is to judge you, and and like pass or fail you, and so there's a little bit of animosity there where you guys aren't judging anyone with what you do and what you teach. And I mean, we have courses and things like that, but in the end, I'm not judging. We don't, our job, and we feel our job is to bridge that gap. Like, here's what you were taught, here's what it actually means, and no judgment,
Exactly. Yeah, that's a huge part. I mean, I always feel it very silly whenever, we've both, I think, experienced this. We've probably talked about it on our podcast, where you come into a class with some experience and you say, oh, well, yeah, that's how it looks in the book, but I've seen it this way. And you kind of get shot down pretty hardcore whenever you say those types of things in class.
I've learned to just be quiet.
Yeah. And
that's too bad.
And I think that stifles what could be brought to the table from people that maybe were CRNAs for a number of years, or even, an LPN for a number of years. They can bring a pretty valuable perspective to a lot of the concepts that you learn in class, but it's this is pretty, this holy dictator in front of the room that has total control over everything. And I understand where they're coming from too, because they get graded as well. At the end of the year, we fill out a survey,
right,
just about them, not about the course. That's a whole different one. So, they have standards they have to meet, and that's sort of the way that the nursing profession has gone to, are, specific standards, and the way, well, actually even healthcare, you have numbers you need to make. You have, 0 this or 100% this, and just kind of the way that it's going, where everybody's getting graded, 24/7.
And I think, so we talked before we started recording too, that you had been in business before this, and that was my first major as well. And I've noticed it.
We can tell.
Yeah. And I just it's the bureaucracy crap that just pisses me off in everything. Like, I lasted 6 months in my first business job. So it's let me just do my job. Dang it,
Yep.
And then I went to nursing school, and I had sit downs with the deans and stuff all the time. Like, every time I sent an email, they were probably like, "Oh, it's John again," trying hey, what about this? And what you guys are experiencing, hey, actually what I saw when I was an EMT, well, we don't care about that, and then, the whole, and then when you're on the floor too, it's like, we're going to have 0 COTIs this year. We're going to pull every catheter. And it's like, I got a diabetes insipidus patient who's comatose, who's lying in a bed, who's putting out 4 liters of urine a day. And you want me to remove a catheter? That's going to end up in a pressure ulcer. That's going to end up with the patient getting sepsis, from bone infection. Like, let's think, I get it. We don't want a COTI, but come on, isn't that what nursing is? Using your judgment, let's use judgment, just sound judgment to just improve the profession,
Yeah. I mean, they've, hospital-based, or, even unit-based committees are great, because you do learn the best practices based on people's experience, but it's the overarching blanket statements that really, I think, would end up hurting in the end. I mean, we just went through a customer service, service excellence thing that is based, make sure your patient's smiling because you gave them a warm blanket type of deal. And I did some background research, and it turns out that the company that our hospital system used to develop this program is the exact same one that was consulted whenever my previous job was looking to revamp their customer service.
And so 2 different industries too.
Yeah. And it's not developed just for healthcare. They just replace certain words. They replaced
coffee with blanket.
Exactly. And I mean, and I just, and it ends up being taught by somebody at the corporate office that has always been, on the human resources side of things, or the customer experience side. And you hardly see somebody teaching those courses that's coming in scrubs. Right. That just finished a 12-hour shift overnight.
You never will either.
Yeah. I don't think you ever will.
And that's why, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Show Me Your Stethoscope Facebook group and movement and everything. But they're pretty cool. They started with the whole the View thing where they talked about how nurses don't use stethoscopes, whatever. So they started this Facebook group, but what they're doing with that group is they're actually trying to fix like nurse-patient ratios, and so doing a lot of really good things as this nonprofit group. The director is Jalil Johnson. You guys, he would probably be more than happy to come talk with you guys too. He's awesome. But they're really like nurses, grassroots, floor practicing nurses that are trying to affect change. And I really love that, and I want their group to get more recognition because they're like pushing against these, long held things of like, we're going to let the CEO who has a business major dictate how we run things in the hospital. That just doesn't make sense. In the end, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And you have a chief nursing officer as well too, but I think they get immediately, as soon as that position is bestowed upon them, they get wrapped up into the business side of things.
You can't help it,
Yeah, exactly. And it's not of their fault whatsoever. It's just the way that the machine is built.
Right.
They even start talking different too, don't they? They start talking like they've read every book on management, and they just start talking to you like not like a person anymore. Like they talk to you like,
what color is your parachute?
Yeah.
Oh, forget it.
No, exactly. It's unfortunate when I was working in the ICU, we had this just awesome floor nurse that got promoted to manager, and you could see the struggle she was having because she was really good friends, and we all still love her a lot. Just awesome floor nurse, but there was that fight that she had to kind of fight, of like this whole corporate side of zero cotties versus like what do the nurses need to take care of the patients, and it was really difficult for her, and it was a huge struggle. You could tell for about the whole year that I was there watching her go through this transition. So
it's such a thankless job too.
Nurse manager would be the worst job in the world.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Never. Yeah. And like I even say like I like super simple things. Like we have this app that is called Untapped, and we love beer. So like we'll go on there and we'll put our beer on there, we'll rate it. It's like a 5-star rating system. I just want to have on there thumbs up, I would buy it again. Thumbs down, I'm not going to buy it again. And I feel like that's almost the way that healthcare should be. Like you come into the ER instead of getting your massive 35-point survey. Did you die? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And like
sounds like we did our job.
That'd be the standard, but it's not the standard, and it's not going to be the standard ever. It's going to constantly be how did they manage your pain? How did they make your family feel?
Bring you water? How did they respond to the call light? All that, yeah.
Exactly. Which of course are great things. And I don't know if the profession itself kind of moved away from those things, like the basic common, do this before you do this. So just give a warm blanket, a reposition.
Well, let me ask you this with that, like you guys work with a lot of nurses in the ED. I mean, the majority, do you feel, are doing the best for the patient or no?
I think it's very different in the ER than it is on the floor or the ICU.
Well, yeah, yours is different. The best thing to do versus my different best thing to do, but
yeah, exactly.
I see the majority of nurses like trying. There's one or two bad apples, but
of course,
let's not revamp. Let's not, overcomplicate everything for everyone. Let's fire the bad apples and move on.
Exactly, and that this day and age is not what happens. You see that in the police and citizen relationship now. Yes. You have some bad apples on there, but they somehow still have their jobs, and it's I don't know if it's the society that we live in now, but that's a whole different. That'd be like another 3-hour podcast we can do.
It would be, and I feel like I'm listening to the last 20 minutes of us talking, and I just want to give a little caveat to all the people who are nursing students and haven't worked healthcare. Yeah. I think all three of us love healthcare. We love nursing. That's why we're doing what we're doing. It's not that, this sounds very negative, but there are things, and I think people that listen to either you or I understand this, that there's things that need to be fixed, and just closing a blind eye to it and pushing through isn't going to help. We need nurses that are confident in themselves and their skills and in what they're doing. Just trust me that I'm going to do the best thing for the patient. I'm not here for me. This is a terrible job to just be here for me,
Yeah. And that is why we're here, because nursing school isn't telling you this stuff.
Right.
You're not learning this stuff in nursing school, and unless you have a job where you're learning it on your own, on a floor or whatever, you're not learning this.
Not at all.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've always wanted to bring to it's like get ready for this stuff. It's not all bad. It's kind of great when you don't have a nursing school instructor breathing down your throat on clinical when you have your own patients, and you can manage those patients, how you want to manage them, and you're ticking all the boxes they want you to tick, but it's your way of ticking them, not the nursing instructor's way of ticking them, which you may be totally opposed to.
Yes.
And it's, it's an old profession. It's a profession that's been around forever, and it's highly evolving, as we speak, in terms of, just even the education that you can receive and still be considered a nurse. And the medicine is constantly changing. It's great that nursing is also changing with medicine, but there's still those basic, base level things that you need to do and that you have to have in terms of foresight as a nurse with a patient. You need to make sure that you have the basics. And if everybody was doing the basics, I think a lot of the ways that we grade hospital systems or doctors or nurses, it would be different. Because if we were all doing the base stuff, they wouldn't have to have satisfaction surveys about, did you get a warm blanket while you were there? Mm-hmm. But I think people also miss the mark whenever they first off come to the ER. And they come for all sorts of stuff. And that's just the way that the healthcare system is now, that access to healthcare is very difficult, especially in highly urban areas where the ER is your clinic. That is your primary care physician. And sometimes those patients that come often because they have nowhere else to go, they kind of get a little, oh, this person's here again. Now you have some genuine frequent flyers that should not be in your ER every single week. But there are some that's the only way they're able to do it. And they're not being captured by the system and said, okay,
what can we do
to help them. And that just complicates the health system, health in general in the US. It just further complicates it.
I'm sitting here nodding my head to everything you're saying, and it's like
you went pretty deep there.
No, you did. It's like I don't know that I can even address any of that, but
can you address? Go ahead.
No, but I agree 100%. And it's like I think what we can do in our little circles, because you're right. We're not gonna be able to fix the system, but I think hopefully we can fix the minds of some of the nurses and get these nurses to have courage to ask the simple questions like, why doesn't the ICU nurse come down here to take a report? That's something that seems easy to fix. It will take, it's difficult obviously because of the bureaucracy and stuff, but it's something that we can push for, Sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh no, I didn't know how much time you had left. I wanted to get one more thing in.
Yeah, man, ask whatever.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to see what was next for your sort of brand and your website. Are you thinking about expanding into, new and different mediums, or are you just going to grow what you have, or?
Yeah, so that's actually what I was doing right before we called, was just kind of looking over 2017 plan and what we're going to do. And 2016 for us was far more than we expected would necessarily come of it. People really were very receptive to what we were offering and the story we were telling. And I think that for the immediate, what we want to do is kind of grow the community and grow the NRSNG family is like what we like to call it, just that we're all in this together, and that the people that I think have gravitated to us, we're all here kind of for the same reason. We think it can be done better, and we want it to be done better, and we know there's better resources and things out there. But as far as the NRSNG brand itself, the biggest thing we just kind of launched, and it was beginning of December, just a couple weeks ago, is we launched a full-fledged nursing education academy. We now have courses in OB, peds, mental health, pharm, med-surg, cardiac, EKG, labs, everything. And so it's really to kind of keep growing that and making sure we're offering the right thing for people, because we kind of put it out there hoping it would kind of answer the big need that there is, that, there are the NCLEX prep companies alone that will prepare you for 3 weeks and then you never hear from them again. Mm-hmm. And then there are a lot of people offering stuff on YouTube and stuff like that. And so we really wanted to kind of bridge that even and say, okay, from the moment you decide you want to be a nurse till the moment you retire, we want to have resources for you. And that's obviously a huge goal, but we are starting to have a lot of tools and things available for people that they can come to us and kind of clarify all the junk and the mud that you're hearing in class. And then when you're on the floor, you have a question. It's like, dang, what was Addison's disease again? We have resources, cheat sheets, tools, and stuff for you. So that's kind of the immediate plan. Long answer, I guess.
No, yeah.
I sing your praises all the time to people in class that haven't that haven't found you yet. A lot of people found you without even me mentioning it, but I think it's that, you're talking about like the breakdown. You can just listen about this specific thing, like this one lab value. And I know that, especially the lab value stuff, helped on like fluid electrolytes whenever we took that test.
Oh,
that
cool.
was huge. Like, just paring it down to one lab value, and just looking at that and looking at what the consequences of that being off is. And that's actually how we ended up getting tested. So it was pretty much in line, which was really nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, I love podcasts. I know Ben does too. He's a big podcast guy, and we love it. And I think it's definitely the next thing. Well, it's actually here already, I think.
Yeah, it's only going to grow. And I mean, I just want to say one more thing about kind of what you were saying. Like, I think the reason I've broken everything down so simple is because I actually learn fairly slow. Like, I even took like a physics class with my wife. We were both looking at going to med school and stuff. And we took a physics course, and we spent all the same amount of time studying, did all the same things to study. And she's, making 99s on the test with no problem. And I'm struggling to get a B. And so I realized that this isn't how I learn. And when I went to nursing school, the guy that teaches the pharm course for us, he actually kind of showed me how he studies. And it's just breaking things down. Like, if I don't understand sodium, I can't understand DI or these different pituitary type issues. I have to understand like sodium itself before I can understand edema. And so, I mean, that's why I do it. Like, if it takes me 40 minutes to understand what the heck sodium even is, like, so be it. But I'm going to do that, and then I'll move on to the bigger. So podcast. What podcast do you guys listen to outside of nursing? I'm curious, like best ones.
I think we cut our teeth on. I mean, if we're talking like non-nursing, anything, we cut our teeth on Joe Rogan. Yeah, he's just an interesting dude, and like I think the way that he interviews and the different types of people he has on is that's why he's like almost a model for a lot of people, I think. Yeah,
because he has such a huge variety of guests. Like, he'll have on a comic, that's his friend, and then the next week he'll have on a neuroscientist. And he's blown away equally by both of them.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's a big one. I like Bill Burr. I like his Monday morning podcasts.
I saw I was actually just looking at his the other day. I haven't subscribed to it yet, but I saw the Monday morning. I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, it's good because it's all extremely, extremely current, because it is literally him in the corner of his house just talking by himself. And I think he's just a funny dude. So he's got some good insights on a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And he's basically saying what we're thinking.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what's so, again, like just the intimacy of podcasts. It's like, like you can be in a crowded gym, run on the treadmill, and it's like you're having a personal conversation,
Yep, absolutely.
I just had a 4-hour drive today. I put on a 4-hour podcast and I was here.
Nice.
I mean, that's what's better than that?
Yeah. I mean, I drove down to North Carolina, and I was starting to doze off. But as soon as I put on a podcast, I mean, I was in the room with them having this intellectual conversation. Yeah, exactly. There it is. I was totally engaged. And before you knew it, you're at the beach house. So
that's cool. I'm kind of looking at the top podcasts right now. The only one, so I tried the How I Built This. It's pretty cool. It's a new one by NPR, and they bring in, like, Mark Cuban was on. And they talk about like his journey through becoming Mark Cuban. It's pretty cool. Yeah, there's this one that Slate puts on. It's people in different professions. They talk about their profession.
Oh yeah.
What's it called? Worked.
Something like that. I think I've seen that one.
Can't remember what it is, and we don't have a executive producer over in the corner, or producer in the corner.
Yeah, have your producer look that up real quick.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that point yet. Maybe in a couple years.
Yeah, dude. Got to start somewhere.
Ben's son's here. He's been kind of running around, so maybe in a couple years we'll get him to produce the show.
There you go. He can do sound effects and stuff on the side.
He probably know it all better than we do. So I mean, it is the holiday season. And I think this question's been going around a lot at work. I don't know if you've been in part of these conversations, Ben, but talking about Christmas movies. And I think the big question is, Die Hard. Is it a Christmas movie or is it not a Christmas movie?
I'm not even qualified. I haven't even seen Die Hard.
Oh,
Don't, wait, don't hang up. Don't hang up.
hang up, delete.
Yeah, screw it. I don't even watch that many movies. Like I didn't even watch many movies until I got married. I didn't even watch. I don't know what I did as a kid growing up because I didn't watch like TV and movies. I don't know what I was doing.
You're probably doing the right thing. You're probably out, scraping your knees and doing cool stuff outside.
Yeah, and so like my wife kind of introduced me to this thing called TV. So I'm trying to catch up. But. So, but yeah, so we got the whole Roku thing now. We do Netflix, got the Amazon Video Direct. But I've been, so I can't even answer that.
All right, so do some research then. I have a feeling we'll be talking.
Come back to you. Yeah, I'll shoot you an email.
I have a feeling we'll be talking again on the podcast. So do some research for us and get back to us. I want at least 250 words.
Gotcha. Thanks. Okay.
We're APA. We're turning it over. You're the one educating, but now we're going to educate you.
Appreciate it. So I hope you enjoyed that discussion with Ben and Greg with Real Talk Nursing. It was just a lot of fun to connect with these guys and to talk about so many aspects of nursing. I think that there's so much that more that we could talk about. And it was just a ton of fun to connect with these guys. If you guys head over to Real Talk Nursing here in iTunes, in Stitcher, anywhere, you also can head over to social media, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere, and just look for Real Talk Nursing. You guys, I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being part of this NRSNG family. Everything that we do is for you guys, and we just want you to succeed. We want you to have the tools, the confidence, everything you need to succeed in your journey as a nurse. Now, with all that said, I want you to go out and be your best self today. Happy nursing.